I actually almost probably lost my shed today. So yeah, really, really bad. All right, so it's about 8:10. It took me about a half an hour just to get this thing started, which, I mean, I can't really blame the furnace for because all these sticks that were outside and they were wet. So it took a bit, but it's still about 28 degrees in here, which is still freezing. I'm sure you can still see my breath. It's like really cold. As for air quality, it's a little bit foggy in here because I noticed that the vent was actually shooting smoke back into kind of the shed to the rafter. So I can smell it like a little bit, but it's not as bad as it was. So I might need to actually work in the outside vent to kind of make it like go above the shed, so that way I'm not like smelling this constant smoke. So also I got Apaches. That's probably where it's also coming into. But yeah, the furnace is doing good. It's just finally starting to get warmed up. So I just ran this thing for exactly an hour, a little over an hour actually. So right now it's about 9:26. I recorded that at 9:10. The temperature in here, and honestly still is at 48 degrees. So it was at 28 degrees when I started at 8:10, and well, I'd say around now 9:20, it has gone up 20 degrees. So I've gotten 20 degrees warmer in this whole shed. And like I said, I've had this over here, which is in the farthest away part from the furnace. So as far as I'm concerned, this actually works, and it works very well. So I can gain 20 degrees increase in temperature in about hour and 10 minutes. So hour and 10 minutes, 20 degrees. So honestly, not that bad. I have a few adjustments I have to make because I noticed that I was starting to have some burning issues over here, which would have almost been a very, very nuclear level problem. But thankfully that was averted with some water. So yeah, gonna make some edits to this. But as far as I'm concerned, the fans are all working good. Electronics are all working fine. There's no leaks in the tubing anywhere. Everything is pretty much sealed and good. The only edit I have to make out of all of this is I have to widen the gap around these tubes and have basically metal going around the tube just like I have over there. But I have to do that over here because this is going to be a very big problem if I don't do that. So, but yeah, other than that, it's a huge success. You know, I was just thinking to myself, because once I started to notice the fire happening, I'm like, oh no, I'm like, this is not good. Like, how in God's name am I going to be able to do this in the wintertime? And I was almost like, you know, screw it, like, this ain't going to work. But then I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? This is an old mindset, and I'm trying to rewire that part of me that's like, you know what? We've given it all we got. Just quit. End of story. Oh well, you know? And then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I have dedicated so much time and effort into this. Why would I, like, what a fool to just stop after all that. Like, and especially when like 99% of it is actually working. So why would I stop, you know? So yeah, so I'm just trying to I'm just going to eat my food, and then I'm going to come out here and, again, make some edits to that hole. I also have to do something outside here. Okay, so you see the setup I have right now. So that fan right there, the problem is that it's blowing smoke into, like, this area of my ceiling, or my roof, and it's actually seeping. The smoke itself, I think, is seeping through these holes that go straight up into my shed. And yeah, so what I have to do is I basically have to get some tubing and put it basically right on top of that fan and just route it right up the side to the roof, because otherwise the smoke's just going to keep it's just going to keep creeping in there, which is not good. So right now I have this aluminum plate that's just kind of somewhat channeling it outwards, but I have to do that today. And then of course, once this is all done, again, I have to run more tests on it and make sure everything's going to work good. I'm not really too excited because I have to, oh wow, yeah, it is warm in here. I will give it that. It's almost 50 degrees. You can really feel it, like, coming outside from to inside. It's actually like doable in here, which is great. If I could gain another like 6 degrees, if I could get another 6 degrees If I could have it near 60 degrees in here, I'm gonna be golden. So I'm gonna make that my goal for today. I'm gonna make some adjustments and get back to work, so. All right, so it's about like 1 o'clock. I ran a lot of tests on this thing. So earlier I made kind of a mistake. So yeah, so there's a huge hole right here now. So I made a bit of a mistake. So unfortunately, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I wrapped aluminum kind of around more of the base, and I had it like all the way to here, just to like, you know, again, because I could smell smoke coming through some of the cracks. So I wrapped aluminum around it, and mistakenly, I didn't anticipate the heat being trapped between the aluminum and this, and it actually like it turned this metal like, I mean, red hot, like cherry red. Like this whole tube was just glowing. Like it was so red, I couldn't even believe it. So, and unfortunately, yeah. So it basically burned the entire surrounding of the hole that I had made for it. So that was almost really, really bad. I actually almost probably lost my shed today. So yeah, really, really bad. Definitely not going to make that mistake again, because if I do, I probably won't have a shed anymore. So, and I almost, you know, what's funny is that I almost went inside because I was making tacos. And I almost went inside and let's let this kind of sit for a bit. And something told me just to like stay by it. So, you know, which honestly is the smartest thing to do, obviously. Like, you'd never leave a fire unmanned. So I stayed in here and was just like, you know, checking things over in and out, you know, making sure the fans were all good. And I started to notice like the aluminum was smoking. And I'm like, oh my God, why is the metal smoking? And so I peeled up part of the aluminum and it was like, I mean, again, cherry red hot. So not going to make that mistake again. So to solve this problem, what I'm going to do is I just went to the dump. I got some sheet metal. So I'm basically going to have this tube propped on this piece, which I already screwed in here. And then I'm basically just going to make, I'm going to have a square piece of metal, cut a hole in it, cut the metal in half, and then kind of puzzle piece it, you know, both sides kind of like around this tube, and then screw it in on the outside of the wall. So that way it'll just kind of insulate it, because this cannot be anywhere. I mean, this has to be like inches away from wood. So this tube is fine because that one's sucking air in. Actually, that tube never overheats, so that one's like fine. But this one, in particular, for some reason, just it gets super hot. And honestly, I'm probably gonna do the same thing back here. I actually started to kind of clean up stuff from back there because I'm gonna rip that fan out completely and, you know, make that hole wider, just because they're not big enough, and I just don't want to risk it, because honestly, after this situation, which honestly could have been so much worse, I can't take any risks. So I have to take all the precautions, and yeah. So yeah. Oh, also one last thing I have to do, I'll show you. So one of the biggest issues I have right now, besides obviously the wood overheating, is I have to basically take some kind of tube or some kind of like, almost like, I'm probably going to take that like, you know, bendable dryer tubing, and I'm probably just going to route this above the shed, because right now what's happening, and I think I actually showed this in the last clip, is the smoke that gets shot out of this turbine fan, it kind of like gets almost like flown, it just gets like shot into these little holes, and it just like seeps into the shed, which I can smell from inside. You know, if I actually stand next to the wall on the inside of the shed, I can like actually smell the smoke coming through these like little holes here. So I have to make sure that that this fan, the smoke is routed all the way up. So that's the last thing I gotta do. Basically, that patch up that hole. I gotta rip all this out again and redo that hole, which is honestly gonna kind of be a pain, but can't take any risks, because again, if I do, it might be a nuclear level mistake. So yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, again, you know, so let's talk really quick about the actual tests and the temperature and how well the stove did before all that happened. So when I started this up at around 8:10, it was at 28 degrees. And after about, I'd say an hour, it hit 48 degrees. So in an hour, the temperature of the entire shed rose 20 degrees in 1 hour. So with that thing going full throttle, the temperature increased by 20 degrees, which is honestly a massive success. So, and it's actually after, because right now it's like almost 1 o'clock. So it's basically been about 3 hours since then. And the temperature has only gone down by, 4 degrees? It's like 44 degrees right now. So after about 4 hours, the temperature's only dropped by, or after 3 hours, temperature's dropped by 4 degrees. So that's actually really good. So again, if I run this thing for like hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning, I should have like pretty much a whole working day's worth of heat in here, which is actually really good news. Like, it's actually great. I don't even have to run this for the whole day. All I have to do is run this for like maybe 2 to 3 hours max. And after that, the heat will be just pretty much insulated in here and kind of locked in for the whole day. So, yeah, really good news. Really, really good news. So, I mean, again, the thing worked. The stove and the furnace, like, the whole thing worked really well. I just have to make sure that it's not going to catch the shed on fire. That's like the biggest thing. So, I could have learned a much harder way. This is actually probably the best scenario that could have happened. Like, again, you know, never leave a fire unattended because it could cost you everything. So, you know, again, I have my suit in here. You know, I have like all my stuff in here. Like, this shed has basically all my tools now, all my parts. You know, again, most of it's metal, which, I mean, if there was a fire, it would be fine. But, like, you know, I'd lose stuff. You know, like, I'd lose the whole, you know, everything. So, I mean, regardless of whether everything's metal, it would really suck. So, again, you know, if you're trying to do anything like this, make sure, for God's sake, you never leave it unattended. I can't stress that enough. And make sure that you have enough room between the actual shed, like the wooden wall, and the exhaust. For this example, I'm probably going to do about 2 inches of space all around. So you can see here, that's about like 2 inches, 2 inches away from the wall in every direction. So that one's only about 1 inch away. So I got to, again, just make that bigger. So yeah. Yeah, that's about it though. This is supposed to be the last vlog, but obviously with this little hiccup, gonna make some edits. So I'm gonna make a vlog after this one, just kind of, again, going over stuff and making sure it all works. And then from there, hopefully everything will be all set.